Well, Billy, what a great story. Josh Papalii back in the Origin team. Tell us how it all unfolded, the phone call you made to him and his response. I believe he was very keen.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's probably something that I've had in the back of my mind, for a couple of years now. In particular this year, the way that Big Papa's been playing for Canberra and, the performances he's been putting in, he's been doing a great job there. And, I thought that this team could benefit from a bit of Josh Papalii. And I was a little bit unsure of the response I'd get. I spoke to Papa a couple of days ago, and the response was pretty much where my head was at, which was fantastic. And it just shows you that he's still got that fire to play for this footy team. He's got that fire to represent the people of Queensland, and he's got that fire to go out and do a good job for his state. So I was pleased to hear that. It's got
that almost got. I know he's a different shape and a different kind of player, but it has Alan Langer sort of narrative running all the way through it. Like when Alan came in, obviously made everyone feel 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And I imagine, and we know what happened next, but I imagine that's going to be another aspect of Josh coming into camp, just the belief you'll give to the team. Yeah, look, he's got an aura about him. He's he's a real warrior and has been for this footy team for a long time. And what will give his teammates belief is Big Papa going out there and doing his job. That's all he has to worry about. The rest will take care of itself. And like I said, he's been doing that every week for Canberra, and they're sitting on top of the ladder for a reason. Their whole team are doing a great job, but he's playing his part.
We're here for Game 2. You said it wasn't a call to Big Papa that you made or looked to make. What changed after a win that made you then want to make that call?
I just thought that he could add something to our footy team. So that was purely the decision around it. Like I said, I've never discarded it. I've never put a line through it. Although he's retired, I always thought that he would love to come back for another game, and the opportunity has presented itself, and I just feel it's the right time.
Shibasaki as well. I mean, he said sort of 8 or 9 months ago he thought his career was just done when he took up a training trial, and now be in this position. What can you tell us about his call-up and his story of perseverance? Yeah, look, I've always spoken about this footy team and the individuals in this team, give our people inspiration, and they inspire our state. Gehamat's story is an inspiration. Only 6 months ago, he was on a training trial contract at the Broncos, playing Queensland Cup up in Townsville. I just think the rise of his game over the last 6 months has been exceptional. And I told him last night, you need 2 things to play for Queensland. The first one is you need to be capable. You need to have the habits in your game that are at the standard of this footy team. And the second one, you need the opportunity to be put in front of you. And those 2 things presented itself over the weekend. And Gehamat Shibasaki is going to play his first game for Queensland. It'll be a dream come true for the young lad from Townsville. And I'm looking forward to getting him into camp and spending some time with him and helping him build his week to a performance next Wednesday night.
When did his performances first sort of come across your desk?
Yeah. Well, I'm across all our Queensland players throughout the whole year. But probably halfway through the first half of the year, so maybe around 6 or 7, he's playing some really consistent football. A great defender. He's got great principles in his game off the footy, and he's a big body. He's doing a great job with the footy as well. So, I'm aware of all players, and when the opportunity presents itself, the discussion is had around, who fills those spots.
When Cullen went down, obviously you had a big decision to make, Billy, whether you went with Hamaso and moved him back to his favourite position, or put Reece in there. Why did you end up going with Hammer?
Yeah, I just think it's the right fit for the footy team right now, and I think he's in a great stage of his career. You're right. Like, Reece is a great player. There's no one more proud than me seeing Reece back on the field and doing what he's doing. It's
it's a great luxury to have both of them in camp. Looking forward to having a week with Reece again. And but yeah, like we just think that that's the right thing for the footy team.
How much of a temptation though was there to put Reece in the number 1?
Yeah, look, I know it's a great discussion, and you know, people will be talking about. I don't think you can make a wrong decision there, but I just think it's the best fit for the footy team. And Hammer deserves his opportunity to play in the 1 jersey. He's played centre for us. He's played on the wing for us. So it's not so much about the temptation. It's about, you know, what feel do you get that is the right decision for the footy team, and that's what my job is.
It's going to be hard to do, Billy, isn't it? Like we know that Queensland's carried the series 4 times in Sydney, once with the draw, and you played in the last 2 yourself in, I think it was 10 and 13, and some amazing efforts by all and sundry in those 2 wins. But this is a tough assignment you've got ahead of you. When you reflect on how you did it the last 2 times that you played, how tough is it to go there and do this?
Well, that's a long time ago, Joel. I can't remember that far back, but like we'd never won in Perth either before game 2. I don't think any Queensland team has lost at home and had to go on the road for game 2 and then on the road for game 3 and win the series. So what an opportunity it is for this group of men to embark on that preparation over the next 10 days. And, you know, that's a real challenge. We're not naive to know where we're going. We're not naive to know how good the footy team is that we're playing and the individuals in the footy team. So, you know, it's a task for sure, but what an opportunity.
Bill, it's been a series where you've made a lot of big decisions. You know, the 3 debutants in game 1, the captain in game 2, and now bringing Big Papa back. Certainly hasn't been a quiet origin for you.
I think when you take on this role, you know, decisions need to be made for the footy team, and it's not about me. It's not personally about players. It's more about it's for our state. The people of Queensland own this footy team, and you know we're merely put in a responsibility position to make those calls. And you know, I don't take it lightly. I make sure that I do my homework. I make sure that I put the work in. So when I do have to make these decisions along with the selectors, they're calculated decisions. They're not guesses.
Just with Reece as well, the knee injury that he had, I think you've spoken before about having it yourself in your career, and it is something you have to manage quite a bit. Did that factor into the decision at all, or was it purely kind of form over the whole year?
Yeah, no, Reece isn't, like, he wouldn't be here if he was injured. Reece is in a great spot, and I've had that injury. I know what it is. I know how it feels, but yeah, no, it was purely a decision over who we thought was best for the position at this time.
I know it's for now, you've made these decisions for the benefit of the team, but there is, I mean, you look at Queensland history, this has worked before, like the Alfie recall, the Adam Mogg selection in 2006, we all know what happened next there too, so it must be a huge lift to this team and yourself when you know you've made what looks like from the outside a bold choice, but it's paid off before.
Yeah, look, the history of our team and the Queensland journey, I suppose, is important, and we acknowledge that wholeheartedly. But nothing will work unless we make it work. Nothing is going to happen for us. We're not expecting anything to be given to us because it's worked for us in 2006. It worked for us in 2001. That's certainly not going to be a part of our preparation. The next 10 days needs to be about making it happen for ourselves next Wednesday night.
With Josh Kerr coming into the squad as well, I imagine it's about a bit more than being the hype man, given the character that he is. Just what's the form, what have you seen in him throughout the year that's sent this far up into the squad? Purely performance.
You earn those spots. They're not just given away, and those spots are there. If something happens, well, be comfortable with Josh Kerr and Jermaine Hopgood wearing a Queensland jersey. I think they're both doing a great job for their clubs at the moment. They've really earned those spots. They're there because of their performances for their clubs.
I suppose you see Reece being, look, if you have to enact it, and he can play in the halves as well. Like, he does give you contingency. Is that part of why he's there too?
Yeah, I think that's what you've got to look at for that 18th man spot is what if this happens, what if that happens, and you need to be able to cover as many situations as possible. Obviously, you can't cover everything, but in the past we've had to activate our 18th man, so that's a pretty thought out position and one that we go over pretty thoroughly.
Billy, can you talk to the Shibasaki phone call? I guess he would have been really surprised, like how emotional he got, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, he wasn't overly emotional. He's, he's 27 years old. He's quite mature and he speaks quite confidently. So, look, it was a great phone call. Initially, he thought it was just being a part of the squad, but then I said, "No, mate, you'll be playing for Queensland." So, like, you can tell that it's been a dream of his, growing up as a boy in Townsville, for a long time, and he's really earned this opportunity, and that was one thing I reiterated with him is that he's here because of him, not because I picked up the phone and dialed his number. He's here because of the actions that he's put in through the pre-season that earned himself a position in the Broncos team, and then his actions every week for the Brisbane Broncos. And when you go back and look at his game thoroughly, he brings plenty to his footy team. So, yeah, it was a great phone call. But one that he actually made himself through his actions.
Phil Gould said, I'm not sure if you agree with it, that you played well Queensland for 30 minutes in game two. What do you make of that, and what does that mean, if you do agree with it, for what you need to get right this time? Because I guess that won't be good enough. I don't know whether you're happy with the second half or not, but how do you see that? Yeah,
there were some good elements to our game. There was some parts to our game that we can certainly improve on. Be nice to turn 30 into 80. That'd be good, wouldn't it, Joel? But, look, at the end of the day, field position and possession actually didn't go in our favour. So they're two things that we need to swing. To defend 48 tackles inside our own 20-metre zone, as opposed to New South Wales only having to defend 27, that's a huge number difference. And if we can turn that around, well, hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier on ourselves.
Just on Big Papa, like he's leaving a lot to take up this opportunity. Like you brought in Kyron, final season for the Raiders, heading towards a minor premiership. Like, what do you think they'll do to the rest of the group, knowing how much he's actually sacrificing to come have this swan song?
Yeah, look, it's a great story. Big Papa and his wife Seppa, they had another boy over the weekend, and Papa's actually not going to enter camp today. He's going to have a couple of days and make sure that his priority is being a dad for the next couple of days, and then he'll come into camp in a couple of days' time and get after his preparation. So it's one thing that we do make sure is that the families are looked after. Big Papa's family down in Canberra, he'll do that and make sure that's his priority. And then when he gets into camp, he'll be full steam ahead, so to speak.
Billy, you got some personal attacks around game two. Are you expecting more of the same now? Everything is on the line?
I'm all good. I've got a job to do right here, and that's where my focus will be. My responsibility is for this footy team and giving them a hand to help them play their best footy. And that's purely where my focus is at the moment, and that's where it'll remain for the next 10 days.
So Queensland coach Billy Slater there in the Queensland base of the Sunshine Coast, detailing his decisions on a couple big calls to their Origin 3 squad. Slater praising the rise of Gehamat Shibasaki, who'll start in the centres in his Maroons debut. Valentine Holmes moves to the wing, and Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow goes to fullback to cover the injured Kalen Ponga. While Reece Walsh wasn't entirely left out, he's been named 18th man. Josh Papalii, the other big inclusion for the Maroons, he'll come out of rep retirement to try and help Queensland win the series in enemy territory next Wednesday. To the opposing side, Nathan Cleary, Brian To'o and Jerome Luai have been named to play for New South Wales in the decider. Luai was a late scratching for the Tigers' loss to Manly on Friday night. The playmaker was hospitalised over the weekend after an infection. To'o had scans on a knee issue on Saturday, but the Panthers winger has been given the green light, while Cleary played a starring role in Penrith's win over the Bulldogs on Thursday night, despite a groin complaint. Well, Canterbury are impacted by Origin again. Matt Burton has been replaced as 18th man by teammate Jacob Carraz, making the winger unavailable to take on the Broncos on Friday night. Blues coach Laurie Daly sticking with the same 17 that lost in Perth.